pass it on to my colleague.
Good afternoon. I am Tracy Kazee, and for the tape and for my mother, I'm Dr. Tracy Kazee. I am hailing to you from Colorado, so I am not a native. However, I had the call once I retired to finish doing the work that I started when I was in Denver. So I did 25 years there in Denver, rose through the ranks. And while I was doing that, I actually began wearing two hats. So I'm a social scientist, that's where the doctor comes from. I'm also the co-founder of the Center for Policing Equity, which looks at these issues of community and policing, and specifically in our communities of color, and the historical issues that we are still grappling with today, although we have a number of years on this panel in this system. The question still becomes of why are we wallowing in the why? We know why these things are happening, and the question is why aren't we moving forward to make these things stop? So my sort of thing for today and for my grandchildren, specifically my grandson, is we wear these hats as law enforcement professionals, but we also wear our hats as community members and leaders. And oftentimes those two hats are at tension with one another and about how we respond, especially if you want to make it up through the ranks, the words you say, the words you choose, the jobs that you do, versus how you're accepted in the community once you take off those uniforms and go back into it. So my conversation and my work now, I was the Deputy Commissioner of Training for NYPD. I am now the Deputy Commissioner of Equity and Inclusion for NYPD. So I'm allowed to begin and continue my work in how do we look at structural issues, policies, procedures, and processes that may be hindering on the ability to be successful from being a recruit to retirement. And so there's going to be some difficult conversations internally. I'm excited, the Police Commissioner is excited about having these conversations, and we recognize that we're going to be testing some limits of some standing notions around what it means to be a leader. So that is my story, and I'm sticking to it. I would be remiss if I did not point out that the Shining Bright Sisters are at the end of the table. And with that, I'm going to pass it to my sister.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome.
For the tape in your mouth.
Yes, sir.
I'm Chief Juanita Holmes, and those that don't know me, I'm the Patrol Borough Commander for Queens North. I am my 31st year with the department. I would say probably the last 10, 11 years as an executive. I had the pleasure of policing 2 precincts, Training Bureau as the CO, and then the Chief of Domestic Violence, and subsequently promoted to the Chief of Patrol Borough Queens North. And very happy to be here. And yes, I am the first African American female to hold that position. Second African American Assistant Chief, and the first crown goes to my sister.
Yes.
I actually came on with. So Kim and I have been side by side for many, many years. So anyway, some of the challenges that I'm looking forward to dealing with in 2018. Most people, if you don't know about the neighborhood coordinating officer philosophy that's been implemented in the precincts of New York City. I think currently there's about 56, 57 precincts that's had the pleasure of rolling out that program. And basically what it is just maintaining the integrity of a particular sector by keeping 2 officers in that particular sector, the same officers in that particular sector, where they're able to build relationships with not just the residents, but also with the businesses in that community. So I'm looking forward to that. I have 50% of my borough that now has implemented that philosophy. And I think the next rollout for one precinct is April 11th. And we're forecasting by the end of 2018 for the entire New York City Police Department to be NCO coordinated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, let me start with, I guess, the big question, which is police-community relations.
the theory that's often put forward, the long-standing theory, is that being better at hiring and promoting a diverse workforce with more black cops would improve police community relations sort of automatically. It's a very convenient theory. It's convenient for the politicians. It's convenient for the departments. It certainly works as far as maybe hiring opportunities and promotion opportunities. But to pick up on something that Dr. Kaziz was really getting at, it's more complicated than that. There's one thing to promote it as a theory. It's one thing to allow talented people into the system, and you all are doing a marvelous job of rising up. But there's other parts to it as well, right? So I wanted to ask, in your experience, for everyone here, in your experience, how do you measure your success? To the extent that that is tacked on to whatever other official job you have, that they're expecting you to help improve police community relations. What's the index? What's the number? What's the stories that tell you that you're doing a better or a needs improvement job in that area?
Well, I'll go first. That's a hard question, right? Because I think that, I can't speak for everyone on the panel, but I know that I have measured historically success in a couple of ways, but I also have come in later years now to question whether or not that's truly what it was. So definitely I think I measured my success by the ability to move through the ranks and to be able to do those things successfully. But I also measured it by how and what I did with those that were coming up behind me. And the ability to give them voice, the ability to set a path, and blaze a trail like the Chiefs have done, and know that they will be successful in what they do. But I think the hard part about this, as you stated, Earl, is that it's much more complex than that. Because we are one group of several folks that represent not only a uniqueness of being in an organization that's male dominant, for one, but doesn't necessarily look like us, but we also represent a community that's in crisis with the work that we do. And I think it's those struggles that I tend to measure most, is how the community is doing. And I think that that weighs on not just how we think about policies internally, but how we bring people in to reflect the community. Because I think one of the things the community was reliant on, at least in the 70s, was this notion that if the community was reflective, that a lot of what we're seeing today would not even be occurring. So we know that there is a sort of mixed blessing in having folks that look like you, but we still have not dealt with the concrete community issues that are creating all of what still seems to be present today.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, this is a qualitative question, or we're trying to quantify a qualitative question. You know, how do we become more diverse because the community says that they want us to be so, is really a statement from the community saying, we don't know you. We don't know who you are. And part of that is our fault as an industry. We have not historically gone out of our way to let people know what we do, what our policies and our procedures are. We're starting to move in that direction now, but there's a huge misconception out there in the community because they don't know us. So when the community says, listen, I want you to have more black cops on your force because this is a black community and I want you to reflect that, what they're truly saying is, listen, I don't know you. I want to know you, but I don't. So the question becomes, for us as executives, do we simply follow that and go out and hire more police officers? Or do we prepare our agencies to interact and engage with every aspect of the community that we serve? A lot of that comes from education. And the education has to be on the part, or from the community towards us. We have to teach them who we are. But we also have a responsibility to teach our officers, our personnel, about the communities that we're serving. It's difficult for us to take someone that's never lived in that community, teach them for 6 to 8 months how to be a police officer, and then say, go out and do this job, without letting them know who these community members are, what the history of that community is. It's unfair to them. So I think it's important as we're discussing this to keep that in mind. What the true question is how do I get to know you better?
obviously, I told you guys earlier, 30 years. And I think over my 30 years, and even times before that, we've done a great job working with communities. I think the challenge is in each district and each unit is that we've been operating in silos. And we have to do a better job because we don't want to share our successes with other commanders in the room or other commanders in the district. And it's a shame that we have to think that way. So we have to be really transparent. When we're talking about transparency, we have to be transparent in the police department as well as the community. We recently, two things, we recently did a survey of community and police officers. We did it in the first week of January. Some of the data that came that was gleaned was really kind of alarming in terms of trust in the community and trust within the police department. But I will say this, in terms of diversity, based on the survey and based on the results, it said two things. It says our police department to be most effective, and this is what the data says, is that we need more women in policing. And when we look at that, I'm not saying this kind of guilty. My mom was she was my hero. She was my role model. And I know that women just do a great job at de-escalating. Women run households. Women know how to put policy together. Women are at the forefront. So this is what the data is. This is what the police department said. And this is what the community said. And the other thing on the other side of the data is said that there should be more African American men in the police department to better understand the community. And that specifically came from the community. So the question lies is that should your police force represent the community they serve? Should be reflective of the community they serve? To a degree, yes. To a degree, yes. My perspective, my thought process is that officers that work in the community, they should share the same values as the community. And that's where you get your big win from. But there's a lot of stuff that we have to overcome in terms of measuring. And I have to look at really the elephant in the room when we talk about measuring. And I have to look at the crime. And we've been a police department that's been averaging 343